In this video, we're going to learn about a different way to write down a complex number called the trigonometric form. Previously, we said that if you want to write down a complex number, that is a plus bi. And in the picture here, that means you're going to go however far a is to the right, you're going to go however far b is up, and this is the point right here, a plus bi. That's a perfectly good way to write a complex number, but we're just going to see a different way to do this. And so the idea here is going to be, let's finish this and draw a triangle. Okay, and then for this triangle here, let's going to go ahead and call the angle of the triangle theta right here. And let's call the hypotenuse a length of r. And then you would know from our trigonometry we learned SOHCAHTOA that cosine of theta would equal the adjacent over the hypotenuse, a over r, or in other words, a is r cosine theta. If I do the same thing with sine theta, it'd be b over r, or b is r sine theta. And that means that the number a plus bi, a is r cosine theta, b is r sine theta times I. And we can in fact factor out the r here, and we get cosine theta. And I'm going to put the I in front of the sine theta here. And this then becomes the new way that we can write a complex number, and we call it the trigonometric form because it involves cosines and sines. Let's do an example here. Let's say rewrite 3 plus 4i in trigonometric form. So think about what's happening on the picture here. We have 3 right, 4 up. This is our angle theta. So what's our r going to be? Well, r is the square root by Pythagorean theorem. R is going to be 5 here. What is my theta going to be? That's going to be tangent inverse of y over x, so 4 over 3. We go ahead and put this in our calculator, and we get tangent inverse, and we're going to get 53.1 degrees. And so that means that 3 plus 4i is the same as the value r, 5, times cosine of 53.1 degrees plus I times sine 53.1 degrees. And so this right here is the trigonometric form for the number 3 plus 4i. Now, I totally would sympathize with you if you said, why are we doing this? This seems like a more complicated way to write our number. There is a point to it. In fact, it's going to help us solve several other problems, but those are going to be in later videos. So right now, we're just learning what the trigonometric form is, how to write it out, and then later videos we'll see what it's good for and how do we use it to solve problems. Now, there is one thing that we can do to try to make it a little bit simpler, shorten a little bit up. Every single time you have a trigonometric form inside, you're going to have cosine of an angle plus I times sine of the same angle. That's exactly what we have here. Cosine of 53.1 plus I times sine of 53.1 degrees. And so mathematicians, since we wrote it down a whole bunch of times, solving problems, it kind of got annoying. We decided to come up with a shorthand for this. And so we said, hey, cosine plus I sine, we're going to treat that as just CIS. So whenever you see CIS of theta, that just means cosine theta plus I sine theta. And that means my trigonometric form of a complex number, instead of actually writing out r times cosine theta plus I sine theta, we're going to write it as r times CIS theta or cis theta. And this specific example we already solved here, 3 plus 4i would then be 5 cis 53.1 degrees. So this is just the shorthand notation for this. There is a downside to this, to my mind, because you don't really see the imaginary number anymore. Sure, there's an I there, right, CIS, but it looks almost like cosine. It looks like just a regular number that we've seen in earlier times in this class. But you like to remember that specifically when it's CIS, it's cosine of the angle plus I times sine of the angle. So right now you just want to be able to work back and forth between the standard way of writing complex numbers and the trigonometric form so that you can use this to solve problems in future sections.